Madam Governor, you're here in the Museum of African American History. On this day in 1965, that U.S. House voted up the Voting Rights Act. Interested in your take on the primary election yesterday. It certainly looks like there'll be fewer African Americans representing Michigan in the State House and Senate and on Capitol Hill. Is that a concern of yours?
It's always a concern. I think representation is very important. You know, in my cabinet, we've got the most diverse cabinet in Michigan history. When we have empowered people who have different perspectives and different lived experiences, it informs better decision making, and that's why it's such a priority, and that's why it's important that we have people of color in important positions where decisions are made, and that means our legislature, that means in Congress. So I am concerned about that. I can tell you that I am the one that is keeping all these efforts to disenfranchise thousands of voters that have been introduced over and over again in our state legislature, have kept that at bay. But we cannot make any assumptions about what the outcome of this election is going to be. We've got to protect voting rights, we've got to protect reproductive rights, we've got to protect civil rights and workers' rights. All of this is on the line right now. And making sure that we are empowering people of all walks is really important to our overall economic strength and individual opportunity in Michigan.
Oakland County Circuit Court judge just extended the temporary restraining order. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know what, we snapped into action as we've had to over and over again as reproductive rights are being threatened to be torn away from us. 49 years of rights, and now as a woman who's lived here my whole life, my girls are at threat of losing rights that I've always had, and same for all women across Michigan. So we're going to continue to fight like hell. I filed the lawsuit. People asked, oh, was that even necessary? Well, it sure as heck was. Now with this recent decision, we went right to court. We got our temporary restraining order. We'll continue to fight every step of the way because this is too important for women to be able to design our lives and to make our own healthcare decisions.
To follow up with Ken, when it comes to the black vote, when it's a tight race like this, what are you going to do extra with the low vote turnout and people being, I'm out there, frustrated? What are we going to do as a Democratic Party to make sure that they're not neglected and rejected?
Well, you know what? I want to make an observation that I think is really important that sometimes people are missing right now. There is a huge amount of enthusiasm at the ballot. We saw almost the same number of people vote in the Democratic primary where there wasn't a contested race as we saw in a very contested Republican primary. And so that tells me that people are engaged, that they are fired up. But we are not going to make any assumptions. We're not going to write any community off or assume that they'll be there. We're going to work and fight for every single vote. The work that I've done as governor is delivering jobs. It doesn't matter where you live or what you look like. More jobs in Michigan is good for everyone. We've delivered record investments in education of our kids. We've closed the gap between wealthy districts and districts with fewer resources. We've wrapped our kids with supports like tripling the number of literacy coaches. So we're making real progress on ways that eliminate that historical barrier that has left some people behind. And that's precisely why this work's so important and why I want to continue doing it.
Is the Democratic Party going to do more outreach to the black press and the minority press?
Oh, absolutely.
Governor, Dr. Mohammed Alam, what's the message to the minority immigrant community?
Well, you know what? The greatest strength of Michigan is our people. This has been a destination for people from around the globe. When we've got robust, diverse populations all across the state, that's important. It's good for our economy. But it's important that we think about growing our population, and immigration is one very important component of that, yes.
Diversity and inclusion. Thank you so much.
How do you feel about the dynamics of this being the first gubernatorial race in Michigan where it's a woman versus a woman?
You know what, frankly, that's less important than how stark the difference is that people are going to cast their ballots on. We have forged a problem-solving administration. We've shown we are tough. We've shown that we've been tested, and we're still delivering in a bipartisan way, even with all the craziness that we've had to confront. We're delivering for the people of this state. We've got a very stark decision looming. We've got an alternative that is still a conspiracy theorist that calls the last election fraudulent and fake, who won't take efforts to keep our kids safe in schools, who want to rip women's reproductive rights away from us. So this is a stark difference. Just because there are two people of the same gender doesn't mean that we're a lot alike. In fact, one is like the whole field that was vying for that nomination yesterday. And I think that's a very real difference here.
Last two questions here, Fox 2 and then Free Press. Thank you.
Yeah, so yesterday in Grand Rapids, Tudor Dixon spoke for about 20 minutes. Much of her speech was just ripping you up and down. We counted like 12, 15 insults right out the gate. It was disconcerting. Can you kind of address that? I mean, I know she spoke for 5 minutes and you didn't even mention her name.
You know what? I am going to stay focused on delivering for the people of Michigan. That's what I want to be judged on. Some of the ugliness that has been a part of that primary and obviously is going to continue into this general election doesn't serve the people of Michigan. We deserve better. We need leaders who have clear vision on how we're going to solve problems to show that they are tough and they're able to deliver. And that's precisely what I've done for 3.5 years, and that's what I'm going to run on.
All right, Free Press, last question.
I have one question for Asian community, AAPI community. So thank you so much for your support. And right now, what most concern for our community is the education and school safety. What's your message on that?
Well, we've made record investments in education. We also got $250 million to help kind of rebuild the infrastructure around our kids' education. But I still think that we need to have some common sense gun safety measures. As a mom whose kids have been trained in how to avoid a mass shooting in a school, it's horrifying that this is what our kids have to deal with every day, and the fear that parents have when they drop their kids. And I tell you, the hardest days, and we've had a lot of tough days to navigate, the hardest days were in the wake of the Oxford shooting. There was a student from Oxford here today who wanted to share with me that he was a part of the student body and still fears. And that's a fear that is all across this country. We in Michigan can solve this problem. We can take steps together, and I'm going to continue to work to do that.